everybody. I'm so excited to be here. And Bill did not inform me until I was here with Dave and Bill that I was the first female fly tyer for the chapter. So I'm like, whoo! But I'm so excited to be here. I'm Christy Carlson from Pioneer Anglers. We've had a family-owned and run fly shop since '09. So next year about this time we'll be on our 10th anniversary for the shop. So make sure that's right, a little echoing. But I'm so excited to be here with all of you, and I know many of you, and I hope to know the rest of you that I haven't introduced myself to. While I was shoving my face full of spinach, I apologize, but it's a really good salad. It's awesome. So, but tonight, I'll be your first part of the entertainment, and then second part will be Mike, and then I'll chip in a few cheap shots here and there with him. But because I got to keep those boys on track. So I don't know if that's me that's doing that back feed, but tonight I thought as I was pondering what flies I would tie for you, I thought I'd go back to the basics, some of the first ones that I started to tie. And with that, one of them is an old school pattern, and it was originally just a Star Valley pattern that started out. It's called the Cottonwood Special. And an old angler, well, I shouldn't say old, a previous angler out in Star Valley many years ago. And this was a little fly. It's just a little small nymph pattern that started out for Cottonwood Lake in our area, where it was a little still water section that was hard to fish, and those fish were so picky, and everybody was like, why is that gentleman always catching and the rest of us aren't? Well, this little pattern has a few components in it. We're going to start out, I'm going to tie on a size 10 or a size 6, excuse me, a size 6, whatever is your favorite nymph, scud, pupa, hook that's for you. But it's just, we're going to start out with that natural curve of the hook for this pattern. And you could go, I really like the 135s from Dairiki. Where are we? Ooh, yeah, right there. But I'm going to, this is not the typical size we would do this hook or this pattern on. The largest size would be a 14 on a good day. That is it. It goes 14, 16, 18, and 20 for this pattern. But I'm going to tie this pattern for you on a size 6. Good visual. You can see everything. And the nice thing is, it's very minimal materials, and it's stuff that you have laying around in your fly tying arsenal at home. And so, and I'm just going to show you a few techniques that I use with this pattern and a few applications, because not only in Star Valley or any other stillwater area, but also with, we will change the coloring and go to what we would use below the dam into more of a freshwater shrimp type pattern, because the secret ingredient is a little tiny piece of foam. I gotta get this down, the left to right. A tiny little secret piece of foam that we're gonna be using in this pattern. And so it's gonna be a dubbed pattern. And it's typically the original pattern. It has evolved. This is what it's evolved to nowadays. But originally it was olive thread and also just black thread. It was a 2-color pattern nymph. That's all that it was. And so when those fishermen, those anglers were watching, Cottonwood Lake is just a small little reservoir that is 7 miles south of Afton. So right before, and it's just a little area that has a little rock wall area that's harder to get to from your access fishing side. So with a pontoon or a kick boat or a little kayak or paddleboard or whatever you want to get out to it, even just an inner tube is awesome just to get out to it. But everybody sees all these fish rising in that area. And in that area, and you've all seen it, you've all been there before, where you're just like, what are they feeding on? What are they feeding on? And so you're like, well, I don't know, but let's watch them, when you go and you do your insect collection and you do your match the hatch thing. And well, this little buddy, so you can see those trout rising. And you know they're sipping, they're not breaking the surface, they're just sipping. So this is a fly that's applicable for those areas where you see the fish sipping and where they're not breaking through all the way, but you know they're feeding on something that's emerging or holding there in that sipping area of the water. So with that, we've got the Cottonwood Special, and like I said, the original pattern was just olive. It's a two-tone, and I'm gonna hold up my two little samples for you, maybe. It's a two-tone, but that secret ingredient, which is the foam, is gonna keep it just in that sipping level. It's gonna go down and it's gonna come up, and then it's just gonna hold there. Not above the surface, not below in that feeding zone, but just in that sipping level. And so right here, I've got more of a shrimp looking pattern, and then the original that's olive with the black, the two-tone. And so, and you'll see that secret ingredient is right there. It's just a little foam strip. And so it's just a simple, fun thing, but it's where, this is a pattern that you can apply it, change the coloring, apply it to where you're fishing, or where you are like, maybe I should pull out that secret ingredient fly, the Cottonwood Special, or rename it to whatever your lake special is. Or some little area where you're like, wow, those little fish, they're being so difficult. But today, typically, I've been tying them into the 16, 18, and I've been using, ooh, this is so close, on Brandon's Moonlit hooks that I've started to use. I look forward to fishing with them. I haven't fished them all as of yet, but I have an arsenal set up ready to go on those. But today, like I said, I'm going to just start with this larger hook, and I'm just going to start out with what you have in your arsenal at home in your fly tying. I'm just going to start out with an olive thread, and like I said, the original pattern and the original angler that started this pattern was Stuart Thurman, that we know of in the valley. And so with this, it's just laying on, starting out, getting your thread base. I'm not too worried about that hole touching the thread. It's going to be dubbed, so I'm not too concerned about getting, you know, thread to thread all the way through. It's just enough to get that base because we're going to grip on. And with that, as we go down the shank, tighten that up. And getting that thread base, I'm just going to come back to where my thread would hang. And I am a little rebellious on most things. And when they say, oh, don't go past the barb, I'm one of those people that will say, I'm going to take it one thread wrap past that barb. Just because I have to, you know, push my boundaries and see, you know, what is really going to happen if I go past that barb or if I don't. So just so you know, I'll always take you a little down, you know, my path. It's not usually, you know, the wrong path. It's just a little more adventurous, I hope. But with this, I want you to think about, as I get my dubbing, what you have at home. What olives, what colors, what natural colors do you have? And I brought a little sampling because as I tie and I dub, I don't even know if that's good. Anyway, I'm just gonna hold it up. So what you have in your arsenal, different little colorings. I like to always have a tiny bit of a glitz, a little bit of a flare to whatever I'm tying. It doesn't mean that it needs to, and it probably should be more muted and more dull than what it is, but I do have to have that glitz. It just makes me feel a little more sparkly and happy inside. And you can't deny that ever, because once you have, so here, we were talking earlier, and we were talking about, oh, when you meet somebody, like we were talking earlier, so when you meet somebody and you're like, oh, I'm good, how are you doing? How are you doing, Bruce? How you doing, man? Good? Yeah, you're just good? And we were talking earlier, but here's the thing, this is what sparkle does to me. When I think of it, I'm like, oh, I have this, you know, beautiful, you know, the fish are like, yeah, that's normally what I eat all the time, right? Yeah, good old plain old matte, you know, flat coloring, that's what I always eat. But why won't add a little sparkle? Just like when you meet somebody, add that sparkle and be that sparkle in somebody's life and say, you know what? I am excellent. I am amazing. I don't know, but you know what? You got to say it with me right now. Everybody say, I am amazing. 1, 2, 3. I'm amazing. Hallelujah. Okay, so now that we got that over with, think of the fish. So here, my little friend, I'm not a fish, of course, but it's not, you know, overzealous, you know, over exaggerating on that sparkle. It's just enough. So adding just enough of a little hint of a sparkle. So I like to mix my own dubbing. So I will take, I do like going to yard sales and finding fly tying materials. Who loves to do that too? Yeah? Anybody? Because you find some of the oldest neat stuff, but coloring is amazing. So today, I'm gonna take you that bland, hey, I'm all right, I'm good right here. So I'm gonna take that, I'm good, and then I'm gonna add a little bit of I am amazing right here. I have to say, she's my inspiration. I forgot your name already. Susie. She is my inspiration for that thought right there. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a little bit of hey, I'm okay, that little bit of flat dub, and then I'm gonna add a little bit of I'm amazing. I am a big fan of ice dubbing, UV dubbing, ice dubbing, anything. I'll add it to most everything. I don't really want that, you know, oh, I'm a glamorous, non-edible fly. I just want that hint of I'm just a little extra special. So you should be eating me instead of that plain old, you know, cheeseburger over there. You should be taking in this steak right here. That's what I'm after. So just taking it. And when I take and mix I just do it on the spot all the time. When I take and mix my dubbing, I'll take a little bit of the A-OK and then a little bit of the hey, I'm amazing right here. And it's just a pinch of each because this fly, especially when we're doing the 14, 16, 18 to a 20, it's just a small amount. But I'm just gonna shelf it and mix it in. And if I do feel that it's too much, because you know, we really do wanna match, you know, what's going on with that subsurface feeding, but we do want that little extra special of you should be eating me instead of, you know, the real food, really eat me so I can catch you. But, yes.
Do you tie at the location or do you observe and then take that information home with you?
Oh, I just tie at home and observe, yeah. I'm too instant gratification to tie on the spot. I want to catch that fish. So I want to catch him. But with this pattern that was originally, hey, I'm just okay, you know, with that more dull, natural coloring, that's where I just added in a little bit of sparkle dub, just a little bit, and you don't have to. The original pattern is without. So those that don't like the extra, you don't have to do it. Just know that we're gonna be mixing two colors. And so I have my light, and the original pattern was in the olive, that you can see here, and then it's a dark head. It's a black, there we go. It's a black, there we go. I don't know if that's good. And it's a black head. And so for that insect look. And then the magic ingredient is that little bit of piece of foam. And when I don't know how many of you cut your own foam bodies for your terrestrials, you know, hoppers or chubbies or anything. If you do cutting your own foam, I always keep a razor blade at my tying desk. And those scraps left over, I slice them into these just for this pattern. Because you can create your own pattern also. After I show you this tiny little pattern that's just so fun. But then the same thing with the black. You can keep that flat coloring and go into just a dubbing, and it's just whatever your favorite dubbing is. With this fly, you can mix your dry with your sparkle, your dry fly dubbing. I really prefer just a little bit of that anyway, because some stuff is too coarse. It's too coarse to really wrap around and get that nice little smooth dubbing look that you want. And so with this, again, I've got, hey, I'm good and A-OK natural, but hey, I'm a little extra special and I want you to choose me. So that's just Christy's thought process. Nothing, you know, is scientific about it. It's just me. So I'm gonna just shelf it, and I just break it and re-shelf it. And sorry, not gonna really show this very good, but I'm just pulling and I'm just making a small rectangle is all I'm doing. And I just pull it until I can see that everything is kind of laid out evenly. And once it's laid out evenly in the coloring is what I'm talking about, into a nice little rectangle, I put it down and then I know it's ready to go. So I have a couple of those. I have my olive and my black, and my secret ingredient, a tiny slice of foam. And it could be 3M, 2M, 1M, whatever you have. It's just that little bit of foam because it gives it that little buoyancy once it goes subsurface. And then our fourth ingredient is you can add a little wire rib. I do love midrib. A little wire rib. Ooh, this way. And I do love the midge, the extra small. I love to work with that on several nymphs and even a few dries. But typically, my most favorite thing is midge flash. So I pull out a strand of midge flash in case I want that rib to be that little extra special touch. You know, it's that secret sauce. It's whatever you feel deep inside is your secret sauce and what you're adding to your fly. Because when we put it all together, we're just wrapping materials on a hook, you know, and creating something, but it's got to mean something to me, and then it even means more to that fish because you loved it so much. Well, that's what we really hope. But if we go on here, so I'm just going to wrap it forward, and I will add in that little bit of a tail tonight. And I'm going to use the midge flash for this little buddy. I'm just going to tie him in. He's going to be all covered in dubs, so we're just going to tie him in, bring him in, tie it down, bring it back. And we're just going to let him lay just alongside. Nothing too fancy. And now I'm just going to take a small amount and get ready. You could do a whole dubbing loop and spin it, but this is just easy enough. And I'm going to make that little bit of that rectangle again. And then my other little personal favorite is I keep vitamin E. And you can buy vitamin E sticks. I do like just a solid vitamin E in case you ever need to moisture your lips, you know, while you're tying, or, you know, powder it up. But actually, I like the vitamin E for how it feels and when I'm dubbing and the product. There's other, you know, your dubbing spin, your dubbing wax, you can totally use those too. I just really have gotten used to the vitamin E stick, and you can just buy that in any beauty section, you know, anywhere you go shop, Walmart, the mall, your Lancome, anywhere you want to go, to Macy's. But as we go, sorry I've got a bum finger, so my dubbing spin finger is a little messed up today. Hey, welcome, sisters. What are you doing? Good, how are you? I am amazing. And how are the rest of us? Amazing. Yeah, we got it. Okay. Okay, so as I spin it on, sorry, my main finger is on the fits. I bumped it up the other day. And so now, just gonna retie in, take it over, respin. The main thing is with this little fly, whatever consistency that you're making in that width of the body, you want to keep it consistent with that. Less is more on this fly. It's not, you know, a big bulky little nymph, you know, we want that meat and that larger thorax. It's just enough following that shank that it gives that body a little bit of meat, a little bit of something here. Now I'll add just a tiny bit more of that magic mixture that we made. Just a little magic mixture, that's all that it is. Giving that little bit of a body here, a little too much bulk. And then I'm going to carry him about 70, so just a hair under 3/4. About 70% of that shank is what I'm going to take him for the first color dubbing, the first color change. about 70%, and I'm gonna hold him here. Now, like I said, we did tie in a little bit of a rib. Even though we do have flash in this one, if you were just doing the solid mottled flat olive color, you can sure do it. But this is also tying in a little bit more security to that dubbing. And I'm just gonna hold him off to the 45, bring it up and over. And when I'm tying off materials, I usually bring it back and give a secure little cutoff. Pull in there and just let it go. Now the secret is we're gonna tie in our magic ingredient, our little bubble. So he's not only gonna give, when this little fly is in the water with that little bit of buggy body, it's not a lot, but he's gonna give a little bit of bubbles, you know, for that natural insect look with the air sacs around him. But this little guy, our foam, is what's gonna keep him in that subsurface area, so he's not gonna be as deep as others, and it's gonna just keep him right where you see those fish are sipping, but they're not taken. So like an emerger, but not that full effect of the emerger, and still in that nymph stage. And all we're gonna do is bring him up and over, and we're gonna tie it down nice and tight. So as I trap in this piece of foam, it's okay wherever you bring it, because we're gonna hide it. And this foam is gonna wrap down, up and over. So he's tied in, but I'm not too worried. I'm just gonna keep the bulk of him up on top. And now I'm gonna make him invisible and capture him all the way back down to where our green, our olive has started. So just bring him back, wrap him tight. Back it up a little bit right here. And then we're gonna let him just be. Just let him be. And we're gonna go back to our head, to our next little coloring, our change into thorax in the head of our bug. And again, I'm just bringing it into a small little rectangle. It's what works for me. And then I could always restack if I need to, if it doesn't feel right or if it's too thick in one section before I dub it on. And my dubber finger is still so tender, sorry. And I bring him off. But the nice thing about this little guy, get more little vitamin E here, we got it. Okay. Is we're just gonna hold that foam back as we bring it forward. We're gonna keep ourselves some room to make the head after we tie it off right here. But we've got to have enough to bring that foam up and over. And like I said, this is just a pattern that started out on the Cottonwood Lake for Star Valley, just an old school pattern, but he's very effective. And now I'm just gonna stretch, so I'm not gonna pull so that I break off that foam, but I'm gonna keep him taut. So just taut enough that it comes up and over, and then I'm just gonna use my fingers and pinch his tautness. Give that little bob and a swirl so you can capture it. Give him a little tautness before he captures down, and there you go. He's right up over the top, just like a bubble back. Up and over. Capture him a couple more times, keeping it so that it's not cutting the foam away. And then we'll build a small head, taking it back, and spur that taper into your nymph. But he's captured here, so now I'll pull up, and I want to give resistance and that tautness, so that, as you can see, hopefully, it's just enough of, see that with you, just enough, so now when I build the head, that end will be captured and tapered up into the body, and he'll be invisible, and you won't even know that he was ever there. And then we can just whip finish and tie off. And I'm a big uni thread person. I do love my 8/0 and 6/0 to tie most things, just what I learned on, and it's just something that I'm very comfortable with. And as you can see here, before we whip finish, where did I put him? Had him all out. Sorry. give him a little head cement right here, but this is our little Cottonwood special. And he's a very simple but effective little fly, especially for when they're being a little difficult. Those fish aren't cooperating with your, awesome sauce that you're giving them. And so if you're just not enough and you need a little more, you pull out this Cottonwood special, tie it in your own variety, and then, are we good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
Oh, I've turned him, I was trying to turn him, there we go. So, like I said, we're a little exaggerated on this size 6, but once again, 14 is the largest, 16, 18, 20, and he's amazing. He whips up really quickly, and then just really be creative and let your inner rock star, tying star come out. Because if you've been doing the dull life all the time, I challenge you to give a little Christy spice to it, because in your box, like everything else, there's those sparkly things, and then there's times where we do need the muted, duller things that's in our arsenal. So I challenge you to just, explore and practice tying. This is a great little fly. Also, if you're teaching any basic fly tying classes, also because people, or even with the kids, they can take this fly and create their own and really inspire them to create their own magic with creating and mixing dubbing. So with that, now what I've found, this is the standard, like I said. With that, we're gonna change our little pace here. And you can get a little more creative and go more to that change with it, like a peacock dubbing, but olive and that little change with the black is really predominantly what I found is be most effective. The next effective part is, like I said, is changing pace to a lighter coloring, and to some areas where in lake areas or below dams or somewhere where you might have some freshwater shrimp or some mises that you would like to fish, or you don't have that true exact pattern, or they're getting pretty used to what you're giving them. So a little challenge to yourself is change up the Cottonwood special into some, where is it? There it is. It looks a little more purple under the light right here, but right here, just changing it up so that you can see that coloring, and changing him to just be lighter. And you could also do this in the, where are you? There we go. In the ice dub in this pearl. And I really like the UV2, this shrimp, or the mises, the one that's actually for it, as I really love this coloring, and that's what is on this little guy right here. This one that I had tied up so that you could see the change, but also letting him sip and letting him drift along. Like if you are below a dam and you have a current and you have a channel that's coming along, just letting him drift and bob, and see if that changes it up just a little bit more for you, to where it has that little bit of buoyancy, and where they can say, hey, I don't know about that just plain old guy over there, but I'm gonna go for this one. That's what we want. Well, that's what we always hope and tell ourselves. So with that, that's just 2 variations, and that's a Cottonwood special, and that's just an old school pattern that's been around in Star Valley for quite some time. And I don't really know too much about the original Tyer of this pattern, Stuart Thurman, but I do know that if you talk to any of the old timers, or old anglers, I should say, older anglers, more experienced anglers that are in the valley, that they definitely have a few Cottonwood specials in their box to use, on a Henry's Fork and a few other places on the South Fork where they go also. And so with that, but just know that you have some variations and some options to do with those, changing it up and really experimenting with your dubbing and letting that inner, fly star come out, I hope. That's my thought for all of you tonight. And then the next pattern that we're gonna do is one that I created when I started to tie soft tackles. And so we're gonna change pace here, and put the little Cottonwood special away. So when I was preparing for all of you amazing folks, I was like, well, I'll do something old and something new. So I'm going to give you one of my flies, and I gave you one of the Star Valley's older flies. And so with that, I'm going to just change over. And here's my large exaggerated. It's just a little soft hackle, and she's called the Vixen. So with the Vixen, this one's just going to be really exaggerated. There we go. But this is just for you to see. Again, we really won't be tying this unless you're going still heading, and then we'll add a whole bunch onto this. But with this little guy, this is typically a 10 would be, oh, look at that ugly finger that's all bumped up. Ooh, yuck. So typically this little fella, this little sister is what I call her, is a nice little soft hackle. I created her in 2 versions, in a natural and then in the dark purple. And the dark purple was just because, you know, not that, you know, purple is the color, it's just that one of the more predominant flies for a dry fly that's very effective in the dry fly is, you know, your purple haze, which everybody loves. I hope everybody loves. And so your variation of the purple haze, because there's so many variations. Well, I designed, because I was catching several fish on my purple haze that I was fishing on the Salt River itself, after my purple haze would go subsurface. As soon as it would go subsurface, I was catching fish certain days, not all the time, but certain days at certain times. And so with that, I decided, well, I'm kind of a dry fly snob, so I was like, I don't know if I should go down this road or not, but I did. I did, and I went in and I decided to make something that I could drift, something that I could, you know, let swing. And then I was, you know, Marty is all there. So when I was learning the single and the double hand rod, so I was like, what can I add on? So with that, I decided to make my own version, the Vixen, in the purple coloring, which is more for my dark coloring, because I do it in a natural with the dark, which is my purple, and in the light coloring. So I have 2 variations of it.
You're going to tie it that big?
No.
Smaller?
Smaller, okay. Yeah, I'll tie it smaller. This is just for you to see. So what we do, our materials for the Vixen, and if you need be, it is also in Bruce's new book that came out this year. I don't know if you can see it. Anyway, Fly Fishing the Greater Yellowstone Backcountry. And so in Bruce Staples' book, my good dear friend, the Vixen's pattern is here. I should have marked it for you. But anyway, it's in the back, and we'll find it later. But the whole pattern is there, the recipe, and then the natural version. So in that one, the natural version, and I'm going to tie you the dark version really quickly. And this is what our friend will look like coming out while I get my materials together for you. So now we're going to go to, in the purple Vixen, this little sexy girl right here. What it is it's a pheasant tail for the tail, and I do get the UV2 or the ring neck pheasant tail, but I get the purple dyed. In the natural version, I do use the natural or olive in the pheasant tail for the tail. In this version tonight, I'm going to give you, there's 2 materials I do like to use on my dark Vixen is the purple dyed peacock curl. I love to use the peacock curl, and I love to use the purple pheasant tail and those feathers right there. So these are the 2 materials that I do for the body. But I do use the tail as the pheasant tail for the tail and the body, and or the purple peacock curl. So changing pace real quick. I also, for the soft hackle, just use the UV2, where is my, there it is, maybe. Anyway, it's a grizzly soft hackle. in the UV2. And then of course, you know me already now, I am gonna add a little sparkle and a little flash. But not too extremes, just enough. It's just enough so maybe it says, hey, you should be taking me over what's over there. That's our whole point. I do love adding in, you can tie this with a purple thread. I really love using charcoal. Charcoal is a good neutral thread coloring when you're going back and forth between different flies that are in that natural neutral base. And so my favorite preferred color is to go with the charcoal. And I'll be using the Uni 6-aught for this little buddy, for our Vixen. And this is just another little gal. But all we're gonna do is bring it up over here. And so, Bruce, tell me your favorite fly. What's your favorite fly, Bruce? The purple haze. This guy sat in the right place. My all-time favorite. I love it. Last summer, I had a dry fly rod, one of my 5-weights, and I didn't change that rod. Well, I changed the fly, but I never changed the pattern, and it was just a purple haze, and that's the only fly pattern. I mean, I didn't have the one fly all winter long, all summer long, but I'm gonna tie this for you on a size 10, and I'm just using the 710 in the Dairiki, just a natural little nymph hook with the straight shank. And we're just gonna bring him here. We're gonna bring up and load our thread.
Christy, also the elk-haired caddis.
And the elk-haired caddis, yes. And I have to tell you, on the salt, night before last, and last night, the caddis were amazing. I was like, oh, if our water was fishable right now, we'd be slaying it. But it's not. We're still in full runoff and mud. So not much going on. We were really excited as we were driving down. The clear water, like through Colville and stuff that we were seeing, I was like, oh my gosh, they got clear water here. But it is starting. Star Valley is there, but remember, we're in the Arctic, so it does take a lot longer. So I'm going to start with your favorite straight shank nymph. That's all it needs, just your favorite hook. And the main thing is to just let it flow. But we're going to take our pheasant tail, and we're just going to pull out one of them, and you'll see where the sections are used for the body and the sections are used for the tail. So with the body, I'll keep these longer fibers and keep them there, and for the tail, I come down to the lower part of the pheasant tail itself, and I pick about 4 to 5 small fibers. Oh, he didn't pull. And I bring him up, stack him here, and I usually do the body's length of the shank for that tail width. Bring it up and over. I wind him in, letting it lay right along the top. And as we lay it along the top, the nice thing is with this little fly is she loves flash. So now I'm going to add in my wiring. We're going subsurface, even though the cottonwood was subsurface too. We want this gal to have a little bit more class. So we're going to bring her up. Get this wire ready as we straighten it out, just a little hair. And now I'm going to tie in my body fibers. So I'm going to pull it right off. Again, 4 to 5 fibers. Bringing it in. And I'm not going to worry right here about so much on the bottom. Oh, they're telling me to hurry because everybody's ready for part 2. Telling me to hurry, I'm not tying in the tail. Okay, so I am going to tie, now I'm going to tie the tips in because I'm doing my body. I'm going to tie the tips into the center. And as they capture, bring it back, bring it forward. I'm not going to worry too much about he's going to get wrapped in. I'm going to add my wire just to the back. And we're going to be working forward from the back of the fly forward. So with our wire, I'm going to bring it forward again. I'm going to bring that wire and bring it back. Tie him in so we don't have too much left over.
You fold that back on itself for an extra
I did.
point?
I did. I fold it back to itself, and then I know it's not going anywhere. And a lot of materials, when I'm tying them off, if I have room to do it, I'll bring it and fold it back onto itself, and it's just a good tie-in. It's very secure. As I work my thread back forward.
You don't worry so much about bulk then?
No, this is going to be kind of covered up, and you'll see it's going to kind of keep them consistent. And it's not that much of it that will be too bulky. And like I said, this is a little exaggerated because we will typically be on this fly, 14 again is our max, 14, 16. You can do a 12, it still would be okay, but for our water, for the salt, and for some smaller streams, it seems that 14 is the ticket, 12 the max, but 14, 16s are the happiest. And bring it forward, and then I'm going to cross wrap with that wire to the Vixen right here, giving that nice little glitzy rib. Up and over, lock them in. 2 locks, I bring it back, lock it down, give a little clip away, and from here now we're going to add in our dubbing. So from here, I'm going to add in my purple. I'm going to bring a little bit of a black. And with this little gal, we do add in that midge flash as the wings, as just little bubble wings on each side. So we're going to pull this, but I'm just stacking, reloading this little deck. Stack, reload right here. I've got a nice little glitz pile, my little triangle. I've got my midge flash. This strand, I'm just going to bring it up and over so it's doubled, because we're only going to have 2 of them off each side. So with those 2, bring it here. Now with this, because we're going to be subsurface and it is a soft hackle, I'm going to let my dubbing be more buggy. So I'm going to take it over, and I make this nice little stack, just a nice long little rectangle, and I'm just going to fold it over. All we're doing is folding it over, so I'm not truly dubbing all the way yet. Just truly just fold it over and let it stack on. We want it to be a little more buggy, like in a merger type. And then what comes off, I'm going to just bring it back up, stack it, pull it over again, and it's just a fold. Just a fold, and I'm going to re-go over it as it comes off, and it sees it's getting locked in. It's giving that little bit, so now he'll have that pulsation. And now finally at the end, where I'm going to load him, is I'm just going to add a little bit of dub right here, build that little bit of a wing right behind where we're going to tie in our soft hackle, and we're going to leave him buggy for a moment. We're just going to leave it. Adding into our small little midge flash, and I'm just going to lay it across the top. Lay it across the top. You let him get locked in. As it gets locked in, pull him up and over. You can do a figure 8 if you choose. I've been a-okay just as it is locked in, pulling those 4 strands back, locking it down. So now as I let go, there's 2 on each side. So there's 2 on each side. And I'm going to leave him long because I'm not ready to trim up this body yet. So I'm just going to let him lay along the body here, as you can see, and I'm going to leave it. And that's just going to be enough to give a little poof when we add in that soft hackle. So now, right before the soft hackle, I want to add just a tiny bit of dub. Build this head right here where that soft hackle is going to lay right behind. And then I'm going to take my soft hackle, my little grizzly. And with these, you don't have to be as particular because it's just about 3 wraps is all we're going to do. But I do save all my fluff at the end for other extracurricular tying moments. But I'm going to bring it up and I'm just going to palmer it back, taking from the tip, palmering it back, and I'm going to clip so that I have a little bit of an area. And I know with other soft hackles you can give us, you know, a little section here, clip it so that it ties and wraps evenly. With this little gal, she's so easy to please. We're just going to take her right here, lay it across. As it captures, bring it in, tie it back. I'm just going to come around here and clip him because he turned just a tiny bit on me. Pulling this little sister back. I know he's locked in and captured. And from here, you could use your hackle pliers, but we have enough. I'm just going to bring it in. And each time, as I'm wrapping forward, if those feathers get in the way, those fibers, I'm just going to palmer them back, nice and light. It's just enough, not overdoing it. Holding it up at the 45 so that we can capture. And as we capture this little sister, got it here. Bringing them back, and now I'm going to just hold everybody back before I clip that feather. Now I know she's locked. Sorry, I'll take it away from you for just a moment. Get that stem. If you have a straggler or so, just try not to clip your thread, like always on anything that we're doing. I've got a little fiber there, but as we whip finish off, bring it down. And now I can trim out my fly, so I'm going to bring those midge flash up, and I'm just going to take it back to where, see how our soft hackle is about right here? That's where exactly, and it's usually to the end of the body, exactly where I want her to be. And now I have my little Vixen, which is my subsurface imitation of the purple haze that I love. And this is my flies for you tonight, and I think we should go to part 2 of the Carlson comedy show.